Hi everybody, welcome to today's deep dive into a young growth stock that I've been watching. And this is one that you see right up here called Yalla Group, and the ticker is YALA. And you kind of see over here, let me get my little loom face out of the way. So if I go back over here to a daily chart, you see that this went public back on October 1st of 2020. What this company is a social media and entertainment platform for the Middle Eastern North Africa region of the world, okay? And it did go public here in the U.S. markets. It's what's called an American Depository Receipt. You know, kind of a complicated thing. It means that banks own shares of foreign companies that they can issue on the U.S. exchanges rather. That's what happened here with this company called Yalla. There's many others like that. Many of these ADSs. I can say a little bit about that in a future video, but it's just a mechanism whereby it's very easy for American investors to invest in these overseas stocks. So one of the things that's interesting that I'm going to be talking about quite a bit with IPOs or young companies after an IPO. Very typical. This one kind of meandered for a while, rallied up to a high. It actually took a little time. Some of them rally to a high much faster and then pull back. This one took up till early December 9th. Then you see it kind of started struggling and the trade became much more erratic over here at this point. Now, in many cases, you do have these lockup periods where insiders cannot sell their shares for 90 days. Sometimes you see the trade becoming a little erratic at that point. This happened prior to 90 days. Once again, that could just be as the institutional holders get involved over here. Now, we do see pretty good. I moved over to a weekly chart. You see pretty good weekly volume over here as it was rising. Even though the downside weekly trade was kind of erratic back in December, you see that the volume diminished right in here as the stock was kind of trading in this little weird section over here. And I just say weird because really it's just an erratic pullback. This is no pattern. We're not seeing any kind of pattern forming in here. Really just wanted to show you this one today because it is a potentially promising new stock. And what's very typical is these pullbacks after the IPO, they rally to a high. This is why I tell people don't worry about getting in so early. If everybody remembers, we'll go back here to Facebook and I'll try to do a monthly. Yeah, here we go. So this was back in 2012. And you see how Facebook price kind of high. It rallied in that very first month, May 2012, when it was trading, pulled back well below where it reached on the day of the IPO. Took quite some time. And remember, everybody was kind of calling it a failed IPO back then. I do. There was a lot of panic, always panic in the news. We know this by now. Not something you can worry about too much with your investing because the forecasters and pundits are often quite wrong and are just filling their time. So people were calling the Facebook IPO a failed one. And then you see back here, about a year later, took it a while to really surpass that old high. There might have been buy opportunities back in here. I was not managing anybody's portfolio that had Facebook as an individual stock at that time. Many years later, I most certainly did. Okay, but that was not at all unusual. So if we go back to Yalla Group, let's take a look at some of the other factors here that are making this one a good stock. Let's go back over to the weekly chart. I'll move me. Okay, look at this earnings history over here. And don't forget that Middle East, North Africa region, as in many developing regions of the world, you have young consumers, younger than in many of the developed nations. That can bode very well for some of these companies over there. And all in all, emerging market stocks can also frequently outpace developed markets. You just have to be careful because they can be more volatile. Some of that's mitigated by having this American depository share, the ADS, but nonetheless, developing market stocks, watch out for them. They can be quite lucrative. They can also increase your portfolio risk, okay? So we do see that. Strong earnings history, strong sales history over here, the double and triple digits. I mean, this bodes really, really well. Right here you see the earnings estimates for the full year 2020, which should be out, often you see maybe beginning of February, you start to see the quarterly reports come out for the year just ended, the quarter just ended. So analysts see 87% year-over-year growth, 62% year-over-year growth for 21. Pretty good estimates we're seeing there. Number of mutual funds holding shares. So you do see over here 12 funds. Okay, that's you wouldn't, if this isn't one of these high-profile marquee IPOs like Airbnb, because this is probably a company you hadn't heard about. And that's the other thing I like about these new young growth stocks. They're very often companies you are just not familiar with. Fairly low market cap, fairly low shares in the float. So you have to be a little bit careful about that. It's not going to be necessarily as stable in its trading as something that's much larger, much more established. But that is what you see in this particular stock. What's the bottom line here? Okay, it did do pretty well after the IPO and rallying up to this new high the week of December 11th. Finding pretty good support right now at that 10-week moving average. Let's move over to a daily. We can see the 10-week is roughly the same as the 50-day, so you see it's holding above that. Below its 10-day line right here, so you can see that, and there is not yet a 200-day line because the stock is so new, so young. So those are a couple things here. I like what I'm seeing in this particular stock right now. Keep an eye on it because all these earnings histories can really bode very well. The earnings history as well as the earnings projections can bode very well for what you might want to be looking for in a company that does have the sales and earnings. I'm not necessarily looking at something that's for a day trade here. I want you to find something that has the fundamental backing here. That means, yeah, it has sales. Yeah, it has earnings. So far, this company really is delivering. And watch to see if it does get support here along that 50-day line, or if it falls a little further. Keep an eye on it. You want to see it forming some kind of recognizable pattern to give you a little more confidence that this might be something you want to jump in. Right now, this is purely a watch list stock as far as I'm concerned. So thank you everybody for watching, and I will be back with another one very soon. Bye-bye.